At Langmeil Wines, one of the more intimate wineries of the Barossa, vintage is in full swing as its dedicated staff deal with increasing numbers of cellar door visitors who dodge the cellar door hands as they manage the logistics of a modern-day winery. Langmeil is the custodian of the world's oldest stand of Shiraz vines, known as the Freedom Block, planted by one of the very first Silesian settlers to the valley, Johann Christian Uricht. 170-year-old vines, still producing wine today. Making wine from the Freedom Block is a labour of love, not all that far removed from traditional winemaking, where the berries are still picked by hand, then processed in open fermenters, before being basket pressed to extract the finest juices for the iconic Freedom Block wine. We'll be visiting Langmeil again shortly, when their cellar hands take off their shoes to shovel the precious berries into basket presses to extract the last flavour-rich juices from this year's vintage. But in the meantime, we talk with Jonathan Bitter, Langmeil Wine's cellar master, about how the 2014 vintage is going and what to expect from this year's crop, subject as it was to extreme weather as vintage was coming on.
It's been a tale of two vintages, really. We've had immense heat early in the summer and fruit was ripening very rapidly, and it looked like it was going to be one of those very early vintages, early ripening, all those big jammy fruit characteristics you get from that. And then we had a sudden rain event in mid-February. In fact, on the Wednesday of that particular week, we had 46 degrees here. And on the Thursday and Friday, depending where you were in the valley, we got between 3 and 5 inches of rain. So that had a couple of impacts. First of all, it was a much needed drink. The valley really dodged a bullet. Everyone was very worried when you get that much rain about mildew or fruit split and things. And thankfully that didn't occur, or very minimal in some parts. The nitrogen-rich rain just gave the vines a hell of a lift. It really boosted them, brought them back to life. But it also seemed to signal a bit of a switch in the season. There was a distinct change in the season from that point onwards. And we slipped into a much cooler vintage style, really. We haven't had a lot of days. We've had some, but not a lot over the sort of 30 or low 30s since then. So we've had that lovely winemaker's dream, really, that slow, steady ripening, which has led to a really lovely balance in the fruit, nice balance between the acids and the sugars. It's going to be a long vintage now. So what we thought was going to be over, possibly by now, by early April, we'll still be picking fruit into late April, possibly even early May with some of our Eden Valley vineyards. They're still, ticking along slowly but steadily. The Freedom is ever reliable. It's been a great vintage for it. Quite low yielding, as has been the case with most vineyards throughout the valley. Classic fruit, really. We picked it, fortunately, later. We were able to take advantage of that longer ripening. Quite a small berry. Off 170-odd-year-old vines, that the berries are small at the best of times. They're a particularly small berry this year, and quite low yields. So we'll be averaging around about a bottle per vine off those old timers. But again, when you're making wine on that scale and you've got premium fruit, you can show it a lot of love. I think it tides well for a great vintage 2014 generally, and particularly with the Freedom, it'll be a great wine.